Yes, Paper Mario Color Splash for the Wii U. Now, I've owned this since January 13th. It's what, May 23rd or so? Or May 22nd, around there. And I'm just now talking about it. Well, I feel like this kind of goes without saying, but as we know, this game, when it was first announced, got a lot of controversy, because it's just, Sticker Star 2.0, and as we know, Paper Mario Sticker Star wasn't exactly liked. Sure, the Wikipedia article might say, Paper Mario Sticker Star received mixed reviews from critics, but nah, not a good game. But yeah, when this was first announced, I was like, oh, god damn it. But hey, now that the game's out, it's been out since October, but I got mine in January. But hey, now that it's out, how's the game itself? It's fucking mediocre. I've put 15 hours into this, and I don't think I'm gonna put another minute into it. It's just, like I said, it's such a mediocre game. It's better than Sticker Star, for one thing, it's definitely got a much better script than Sticker Star. Better writing and whatnot. And, Huey, he's a better character than Kirsty, if that, warrants anything. And, the Koopalings, they're a nice inclusion. And, hey, Luigi in this game is handled better than he was in Sticker Star. But, out of the 15 hours I played it, it just, it's mediocre. It's hard to really get truly engaged into it. I do appreciate the, little, callback, or, little, thing, the, Sniff It or Whiff It, quiz show from Sticker Star returning in this, because, it's, that was one of the few things I liked about Sticker Star. But even so, it's just so, mediocre. I know I've said that so many times, but how else can I describe it? I mean, it still has, pretty much almost the same kind of problems people would have thought it did. There's almost, very, all the NPCs are toads and whatnot, and stuff like that, and how, there's still the battles are still pointless. Sure, your paint meter goes up, but even if your paint meter is at the lowest possible level, you can still get past, any part of the game without any trouble, because, that's one thing that's added to this game is the paint meter thing, which you use to frickin', paint spots, dry spots, or you hit your hammer over a toad and it rescues, them, or saves their life, shall we say. That's admittedly a better mechanic. That's an interesting mechanic, somewhat. But like I said, it's hard to really truly get invested into this. If you really want to play it, you could go worse, I will admit, but again, it's a mediocre game. That's the best way I can put it. And it just kind of sucks that, this is the last game for the Wii U by Nintendo. And yes, I know Breath of the Wild, came out for the Wii U in March, but hey, that was forced to become a Switch game because the Wii U was just handled so fucking poorly. As much as I like the console, it pained me, as I said in my Wii U 4 years later video. Not a very fun video to watch, but something I'm still proud of regardless. And as for this game, well, this is gonna probably be the last Wii U game I buy at retail. Not the last Wii U game I buy, but in terms of getting one off the shelf and whatnot, brand new, full price, whatever, this is going to be the last one, I'm sure, unless I just so happen to pick up Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, which I'm going to get, but who knows if it's going to be at retail, So yeah, pretty dull game, and I can't put more time into this. I'm going to be playing 2 Tales of games, real soon. In fact, I, kind of starting on one of them already. But with this, no, I'm done. Strike Force Bowling on the GameCube. My first GameCube game of 2017, and it's the only bowling game for the GameCube. It was also on the PS2 and the Xbox. How's the game itself? It's passable. It's actually pretty decent, not gonna lie. It plays pretty well, the mechanics are, solid, as with the pin physics and just, the bowling action in general. I do appreciate the little attempt with, I guess, personality with the variety of locales and characters and whatnot. It's a decent game, not gonna lie, though sometimes the graphics do kind of look pretty damn unfinished and like, come on, I don't know. But yeah, not a bad game actually. Alright, how about this? This is something special. Valis 3 for the Sega Genesis. Now, I was gonna get this inevitably, because I figured, hey, if I came up with the money to fucking, buy this, then why not come up with that similar sort of amount of money to buy something, retro, basically. Because I very rarely do that. I very rarely buy, retro games that cost an above average price. What I mean by that is probably like more than 40 or 30, very rarely happens. But I decided to pull the trigger and get this. I was going to get this eventually because I did pick up the first Valis on the Genesis a few months ago, which I guess that makes it my rarest Genesis game. It's not rare, it's just uncommon, pretty uncommon. This one is a little more common, though this cost more. This was $70. Now, admittedly, I could have got it cheaper, but there's two factors. For one thing, the shipping was $20, and normally if shipping is that high, I just say, fuck off, I'm not paying that for. But for a game that's this uncommon, I was willing to let it slide a little bit. Then also the Canadian dollar, not too good. In fact, it's been pretty bad for pretty much this whole country's lifespan. Anyways, how's the game itself, though? It's a solid, sort of hack and slash kind of game, It's basically plays more or less the same as the first Valis. I'm not sure how I explained that when I talked about it. Except this time now, there's two new characters, Valna and Cham. Cham is interesting because she, she plays with a whip, and it's pretty similar to Castlevania, so I guess if you liked Castlevania Bloodlines, and you wanted some more Castlevania action for your Genesis, here you go, I guess. But yeah, it's a solid, game. It plays fine. The stages are decently well made. I liked it, and I really found it, sort of fascinating when I first heard about it, along with, the first Valis, and really just all the other Valis games. And, hey, I'll try to get as many as I can, which I guess now I can get Valis on the Famicom and Super Valis 4 for the Super Nintendo. But yeah, it's definitely nice to have, it's a nice thing to, addition to the Genesis collection, and just, a nice addition to the video game collection, and, hey, it's a fancy sort of game. Pretty good game. I like it, didn't regret the $70, so worthwhile investment, I'd say. How long is this video? 8 minutes. My god, we gotta speed things up. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, also on the Genesis. Now, I wanted this. I really wanted to get this in the case, the plastic clamshell, but whatever, I'm glad to finally have it in some tangible form. And, I talked about this before, I think I talked about this before when I picked up the Game Gear version of this. But, had to get the Genesis version. Had to get all the Sonic games and whatnot. I played Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine a lot on Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube. But now that I finally have the original cartridge, I ended up beating it for the first time. Yeah, I guess if I beat the Game Gear game, I was confident enough to beat the Genesis game, and I finally did. And Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, of course, as we know, is just Puyo Puyo reskinned for, North America. And, what it does, it's reskin and just the effort put into it, it's a damn good game. It's also probably even a worthy entry into the Puyo Puyo series, even though it's just a reskin. Probably a reskin of maybe the first or second Puyo Puyo game. I don't know. But as the years go on, I find out a little more and more about this, like how the two-player theme of this game is a remix version of Satan's theme from Puyo Puyo, stuff like that. And I always really liked playing, Puyo Puyo in general, and Mean Bean Machine is a damn good version. Though I never understood why Sonic and Tails were not in this game. I mean, the whole one thing it boasted on the back of the box was, oh, characters from the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog series. It's like, yeah, we got Scratch and Grounder and Davy Sprocket. and serve fuzzy logic. But where the hell are Sonic and Tails? They were a pretty big, important, part of that show and just the series in general. I don't know, but definitely great to have this, just very well-made game. Anyways, here's my first Super Nintendo game of 2017, Hyperzone. I've wanted this for a little bit because, it's a shooter and it's a really cheap one, and that's crazy because the Super Nintendo is not a cheap system to collect for at all. This was an early system. This was an early game in the system's lifespan. And if you look it up, you can kind of see why it's called Hyperzone, because it definitely has a lot of crazy effects going on. I want to say it's Mode 7, but it probably isn't. But yeah, it's a shooter. It's a decently playing one. Not the most, investing and incredible shooter you'll play. But, it's kind of, I want to say something like Space Harrier or Star Fox. One of those types of games. One of those types of shooters, I should say. And it's a pretty solid one, and it's definitely beautiful to look at. In fact, sometimes when I remember looking up gameplay of this, I would just randomly play the Super Nintendo version of Fighting of the Spirit from Tales of Phantasia while looking at it. I don't know, it just works out really well, because, yeah, it's quite hyper, and I beat it. If you beat the game, it just loops, back to the beginning. Though I'm not sure if it does that infinitely or more than once. Maybe I'll have to find that out. But yeah, Hyperzone is a pretty neat little game, and for, $10, you get your money's worth out of it, even if it's not the most investing and incredible shooter out there. Alrighty then. Here we have 4 NES games. Now, 3 of these were because of my friend Fabio. We did a small trade with cash, anyways, and another thing. I'll just get into that. Here we have Mach Rider. Now, I already own Mach Rider, but here's the thing: I traded in my copy of Mach Rider for his copy of Mach Rider. Why? Because, well, his is in better shape. The logo here, the Mach Rider logo, is not discolored or anything, and doesn't look like there's any, coffee stain or any, bullshit like that. Yeah, so it's pretty fucking nice to have this. As I've said before, I think in, Gaming Pickups episode 6, Mach Rider is actually a pretty cool game. I really like it. Just go around, you blast enemies, and race to the end in the year 2112. And it's still probably a cheap game. I like to think it's one of my favorite NES games. The music's good, and it's great to have a copy in better condition. Mach Rider is cool. And as I said 3 years ago, pick it up. Pick it up. Pick it up. Actually, I don't think that's how exactly I said it. But anyways. But along with that, along with some very, small chump change, I guess, I was able to get 2 more games out of the deal. Baseball. Black Box Baseball, more specifically. And I did talk about this in the unboxing random NES games videos. But in short, it's not a very good game. It's kind of slow-paced. That, teams, don't have anything unique to them. ACD, PRY, as they're called. And you can't control the fielders, which... I'm not a baseball fan, okay? I've never been into the sport at all. Though I did get a kick out of course, Mario Superstar Baseball and Mario Super Sluggers. But as for this, I'd like to tell you it's a fun, simple baseball game that's good for its time, but it really isn't. Though it's better though I guess it might be better than Real Sports Baseball on the Atari 2600. Tetris. Yes. I'm kind of surprised I didn't own this, sort of. I could have potentially convinced myself to get this at some point way earlier. But yes, Tetris. This version of Tetris is kind of well known for being compared a lot to Tengen Tetris. The unlicensed Tetris, because this Tetris, it's got some annoying things to it. For one thing, there's no 2-player. What the fuck? There's no fucking 2-player? That's just lame as shit. And, I guess presentation-wise, because it's there's just a gray border around it. And the music, it doesn't even have the classic dun-da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun, theme. Instead, there's Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies, and one track from the Game Boy game, the B track. But the C track in this game is really fucking good. It sounds really, like, soothing, you know, kind of like something that should be in, like, columns, you know? So, even though there's no two-player and, you know, its presentation-wise isn't as good as it could be, it's still a solid, you know, playing game. It's still definitely playable. I actually invested some decent amount of time to it because it controls well and whatnot, so, yeah, I mean, even though people say that Tengen Tetris is better, I'm sure there's even better versions of Tetris than Tengen Tetris. But still really nice to have this, you know, and especially considering, hey, one of the games from Nintendo World Championships. Double Dragon. I'm really glad to have this because, you know, I really got to get more beat-em-ups in my collection, and this is one that, you know, one of the NES games that I probably could have got year one, or even, and by that I mean the year I got my NES, but I always thought it was expensive, you know, because it's a popular NES title, but no, even to this day it's like a $20 game, so I was like, fuck it, let's do it. The NES version, you know, now of course, as we know, Double Dragon, you know, it's a popular series and whatnot, and, you know, for as much as I heard about this game back in the day, it's not exclusive or anything truly amazing, I want to say, for the NES, because it's not an exclusive game, because, of course, it's on many, many, many different systems. The NES version specifically, you know, is kind of suffers from the fact that there's no two-player. What the fuck? And, there's also a weird leveling up system, where, you know, basically meaning that you don't have all your moves from the start. You know, you don't have the jump kick from the start, you have to, like, level up some points, and, you know, you get hearts every time you level up, which shows that, hey, now you can do the jump kick, or now you can do the whatever else. That's just stupid. It doesn't add anything to the game, you know. It's unnecessary. There's no continues, even though it's only a 4-stage game. I think, I'm confident I might be able to beat this, but, you know, it's nice to have, you know, one of the more popular NES games and whatnot, and, you know, it's still a decent version of Double Dragon. Maybe the Sega Master System version is better, though. How long is this? 17 minutes, okay. Alright. Here we have some Game Boy stuff. I'll start off with the original Game Boy. 2 original Game Boy games. Here we have Alleyway. Now, this was a launch title for the Game Boy, and, well, it's Breakout. I'm sure you've heard of this game before. It's Breakout, and it's also a Mario game, because Mario is the one who controls the spaceship in this game. That, and also there is a bonus game that is Mario's sprite, and, you know, a sprite of a Koopa, you know, the bricks and whatnot. I remember when I first heard about this, people kind of, like, gave flack to this game because they said it was kind of bland, and, you know, now that I finally played it myself, I'm like, well, if you consider this bland, do you consider regular Breakout bland? Because this is a pretty solid playing game, and for one thing, I believe it can actually be beaten, because there's like 26 stages in the game, so I might actually try and beat this. I wonder if Luigi or Peach is in this game. Is Bowser in the game? But, yeah, it's a pretty neat little, you know, game, and, even though probably not the best version of Breakout, still nice to have, and, you know, hey, it's one of the few, cheap Mario games that I can still get at this point, because I have, like, 130 of them, and, you know, I got a decent amount of them out of the way, but, the cheaper ones, this is one of the cheaper ones. Here we have a Japan-only one, an import, Namco Classic. Yes, this is Japan exclusive, as I said before. And it's golf. I wanted to get this because, hey, you know, Namco is cool, and it would be nice to have another Japan-only game. Even more specifically, even Japan-only Game Boy game. And, yeah, it's golf. It's also on the Famicom. It's not the best playing golf game. The golf mechanic, the swing mechanic, the meter and whatnot is kind of annoying to get used to, and even if you do, I just feel that there's just much better golf games out there. The music and the graphics are pretty nice, so it's not all wrong here. In fact, you probably like this. It's just that, again, when I get a hang of that golf meter, it's just, again, I can't find myself getting too invested in this. Though it's still nice to have, you know, and it's okay, I guess, but yeah, as I said many times before, there's just better golf games out there to play. Here's one that's really cool to have. This is Gunstar Superheroes for the Game Boy Advance. Now, I've wanted, Game Boy Advance games. I want to get the more popular ones, because the Game Boy Advance was my first system, and, well, sure, I own, like, 53 games for it, but, like, half of them are just nothing special at all, and most of the ones I've gotten for the system are, the Mario and Sonic games, which, of course, I'm always, grateful to have, especially considering how many Mario games there are on the Game Boy Advance. But I wanted to get one of the more popular, ones, and this is one I've had my eyes on for a while. And I'm sure if you know about this, this is the sequel to Gunstar Heroes for the Genesis. I think like the third or fourth Gunstar Heroes game, because there's also a Game Gear Gunstar Heroes, and there's also like a PS2 compilation that was in Japan only that had the Genesis, the Game Gear, and a prototype version of Gunstar Heroes. So yeah, there's like 3 or 4 Gunstar Heroes games in total, and this one's pretty damn good. I beat the game as Red, because there's 2 campaigns, shall we say, both as Red and Blue. I believe they're the same exact campaign, except for slightly different storytelling and whatnot. Maybe a different ending and whatnot, but, they still go through the same amount of stages, I believe. And I'm, almost done with it entirely, because, hey, I got used to Red's story. Now I'm getting used to Blue's. And the game itself is just a blast to play. It's just fun as hell going around shooting, all the bad guys with, the action and whatnot. The graphics are nice. This is a really well-made, quality game, and for a genre that I really need to stick more into, run and guns, this is definitely a nice entry and great thing to own. If you don't have Gunstar Heroes on the Genesis, I'd say go for this, because hey, it is the cheaper game, and you're more likely to have a Game Boy Advance than a Genesis. I don't know. Much longer. Okay. Yeah, I think we have time for one more or 2 more. I don't know. Here we have Yoshi's Island DS for, well, you guessed it, the DS. Now, I wanted this because, hey, I love the DS. The DS is a fantastic system. And this is one, I remember, like, just watching neighbors and friends play and being amused with it. I knew going into this that it wasn't going to be as good as the Super Nintendo game, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, which I still haven't beat. I don't own the Super Nintendo one, but I have it on the Game Boy Advance, Super Mario Advance 3. And even though I think I've probably... Even though it's kind of silly, I think I've probably gone further in this than I have the Game Boy Advance one. But from what I've both played, yeah, the original Yoshi's Island is the better game. This game's still good, I think. I do appreciate what it does with the, like, little mechanics with adding, Wario, Donkey Kong, Peach, and Baby Bowser in it. It definitely adds some nice meat to it. But, just the overall level design... And especially the music. Like, what the hell's going on with this game's music? Aside from the title screen music and maybe one of the athletic themes, the music in this game's kind of lackluster. I made it to, like, the end of the 4th world. In fact, there might only be 5 worlds in the game, though I like to think in traditional Yoshi's Island, or Yoshi tradition, maybe there's 6, I don't know. I need to play more of the Yoshi games, and while this isn't maybe not the best return to the Yoshi series, it's still a solid, enjoyable game overall. And hey, I guess it is better than Yoshi's New Island for the 3DS. So, yeah, nice to have, overall. Well, I think that's about it for this episode. Yeah.